said he had his daughter, said he had Howard Stern calling his daughter a piece of ass, and said he'd be dating his own daughter if it wasn't his own daughter. Wouldn't you think that that would increase the likelihood that if he went to Epstein's island, he probably did something?
I've met some people that have said very worse things that he has.
What I'm
Like that's
telling you to
fair.
do is to add all of these factors and use your critical thinking skills.
Okay.
Undocumented immigrants are multiple times less likely to commit violent crime, and property crime in the United States than natural born U.S. citizens. This idea
It's a
here
crime
that,
just
listen,
to
listen,
enter
listen.
here. It's a
Is it
crime
a
anywhere.
violent crime?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Coming
Coming into
into
the
coming
country
into a
undocumented is
country
not a violent
illegally.
crime.
I would like to pose a hypothetical to you because you were just talking about Epstein Island and all that. So I'd like to pose a hypothetical.
Go ahead.
So let's say you go to a house party, and you're just having a good time. It's your best friend's house, and people that are there are doing hard. You don't know that. You don't know that they're doing that in the bathroom. And then later, those it breaks out. There was hard drugs at that party. Does that mean that you did those hard drugs just because you were at that party that there were people doing those?
No, because it is the case that one, it wasn't a specific party about doing hard. So if you gave an example of a specific party about doing hard drugs and you went to that party, I would probably assume you did.
Well, at the time, Epstein's Island,
If someone went
it
to his,
wasn't
I have a
known. It
question. If
wasn't known for
it,
for
it
for that though.
okay, so you're saying that him going to Epstein's island, where they are known to have sexed children for decades.
Afterwards, after the public found out, yeah.
So okay, so he didn't know.
Yeah, I'm saying that just because he went doesn't mean he participated.
But is it very likely that he did?
Like I said, who knows? I would need
Is
to
it?
see some solid
I
proof.
I,
If I
I
if
would
I
say if
saw
someone
solid
went,
proof,
okay, if Joe Biden went to Jeffrey Epstein's island, would you be saying the same thing?
still need to see solid proof that he did something. It doesn't matter who it is. I would need
I don't
just
believe you.
because your name is on the just because your name is on that party list or that island list doesn't mean you
Can you
actually
imagine if this was
participated
the
in
other way
something
around?
stupid. Well, that's the thing. I guess we'll never know if it was the other way around. I think, it's still not good that that happened on the island, of course. And if you did participate in the things that were happening on the island, you're 100% a monster, and you should not be followed. But I'm
Given that
just,
he
I'm
was held
just
civilly liable
saying,
of him, and that he said he dated 10-year-old girl in 10 years, that he said that Epstein's a terrific guy and that he likes beautiful women as much as he does, many of them on the younger side, right? Given that he's bragged about walking in the changing rooms of girls in Miss USA because he quote unquote owns the place to inspect them without their consent, said he had calling his daughter, said he had Howard Stern calling his daughter a piece of ass, and said he'd be dating his own daughter if it wasn't his own daughter. Wouldn't you think that that would increase the likelihood that if he went to Epstein's island, he probably did something?
I've met some people that have said very worse things that he has, but haven't done anything like that before.
What the
Actions and words are a lot different sometimes.
what worse things are you referencing?
Well, well, you're just saying that like, oh, he likes beautiful women like I do. Liking beautiful women isn't a crime, and saying that you like beautiful women isn't a crime.
You didn't hear the whole statement. He said specifically about Epstein that he's a terrific guy and he likes beautiful women as much as he does. Many of them on the younger side.
Does that necessarily mean he's talking about below 18?
If you're talking
He
about,
said younger. Younger can mean 20 and
hey,
above to
Noah,
all
what
the
I'm
way to
telling you to
30.
do is to add all of these factors and use your critical thinking skills.
Okay. I do have a couple things that I would like to use. Not about Epstein's Island. Changing the subject
Can
about
you
that.
understand that? Add up all
Yeah.
of
No,
these
I was not.
things
Yeah. No, I
and
can.
understand context clues.
In court of law, it's about facts and evidence, not
Yeah, and we're doing
context.
that. You understand that it's through reasoning and thinking, right? Yeah, Trump did say that he's considering pardoning P. Diddy, yes.
I did not hear that. Where'd you get that from?
That's actually, you can watch the video of the news thing on my main account. Parker Get a Job on
Okay.
TikTok if you'd like.
Okay. Well, let's get past type of person. Let's get past. Let's go to like what he has done for the country.
Yeah, nothing. Good.
Well, Trump created a booming economy. Unemployment hit a 50-year low at 3.5%.
It was lower under Biden.
GDP growth was steady, and the stock market
What?
hit record
How is
highs.
GDP doing right now, and how is unemployment doing right now?
How long has he been in office?
About 4 to 5 months, and Donald Trump has taken an economy that had several months of multiple percentage point real GDP growth, and he's switched that to actually negative zero point 0.3 percentage point real GDP growth, and we've also seen an increase in unemployment by 0.2%. So he took a growing economy and made it a decreasing economy, while basically no other developed economy around the world is experiencing that. So
Okay.
it's unique to him, unique to this country because of Donald Trump's policy.
Okay. Well, how do you feel about the immigration stuff that he's been doing, like limiting that and whatnot?
I disagree with his immigration policy. I think it's horrible,
Why?
and I think that he's also doing a constitutional crisis specifically by like literally not following through with a Supreme Court order that was 9-0. People who he appointed onto the Supreme Court indicated that he did something against the Constitution, and he essentially
Okay.
just didn't give a.
What's wrong with keeping your country safe, as in keeping bad people from coming into your country by increasing the security
So to
it takes
clarify,
to
if
get into your
okay,
country?
so someone who's trying to immigrate to the country, trying to legally get into the country, and they were held civilly liable a woman, would you let them legally immigrate into the country?
Why would I do that?
No, you wouldn't.
No.
No, okay, so you wouldn't let them legally immigrate into the country. Yet it is the case that they were held civilly liable a woman, but you will let Donald Trump, who is held civilly liable a woman, be president of the United States.
He was born here. He has a legal right to be here.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not disputing
constitutional
that. What
right.
I'm saying is that why do you put harsher qualifications on who's allowed to become a citizen comparative to who's allowed to become a president of the United States? Because I don't believe all immigrants
Well,
or all U.S. citizens are qualified to be president of the United States, right? There are plenty of immigrants who are children, right, who I don't think are qualified to be president of the United States.
well, that's kind of like asking why why would you yeah, he may have been accused of that. But why would we want more of that in the country? It's like why would we want someone from a different country who did that where there's probably less legal action and there's less of a police force and whatnot, where they could have done a lot worse in that country before they came here. Why would we want to take that risk in letting more of that into our country?
Letting more violent criminals into the country.
Yeah.
Okay, did you
Why?
know that? Did you know?
Sure, there's violent
Listen,
criminals here.
listen.
There's violent
No,
criminals
I want you to
everywhere.
listen to
But why
this.
would we want more?
Undocumented immigrants are multiple times less likely to commit violent crime, drug crime, and property crime in the United States than natural born U.S. citizens. This idea
It's a
here
crime
that
just to enter here. So it's 100%. When you're undocumented and you come in
We're
here, it's a
talking. You were
100% crime,
specifically.
right?
You were
Because
specifically.
it's illegal to
Is it
come
a
in here.
violent crime?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Coming
Coming into
into
the country
coming into a
undocumented is
country
not a violent
illegally
crime.
is violent.
No, it's not. It is not. It is not at all. Is it literally? Oh my Jesus Christ, that's so crazy. Holy shit, dude.
It hurts the country when you come in undocumented and
No,
you
you said
you
it's a
come in illegally.
what is a violent crime?
I mean, I can't. I'm not a dictionary, my guy.
Do you want to use a dictionary? Go look it up. Go look it up on a dictionary and use that definition if you'd like.
You're right. I incorrect of the wording that I'm using. It's not necessarily violent to enter. Violent is like when you physically put force onto the victim, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
okay, so then it's
it's
clear that they haven't committed a violent crime. So then the point you were making that like there's going to bring more violent crime. If you look at the violent crime rate, it would go down if more percentage of our population was were considered undocumented immigrants because undocumented immigrants on average commit lower rates of violent crime.
how do you catch those people when they have no evidence of them being here. They technically don't exist in America.
So then
How do you
if you want,
catch those
I
people
got
and
you.
hold them
If you want
representable
to
to
make
you
it
guys?
so that people, right, are understood, right, and they're registered with our system, give them like a incentive to do so. Give them a pathway to citizenship if they have not committed a violent crime or a bad crime. Because if that's true,
There is a pathway to citizenship.
no, a quick one. Like, I mean, one that's quick, not one that is just like,
Why would we want a quick one?
because it is the case that like immigration is a good thing. It's not bad, and
Quick,
like we want to
quick
incentivize.
is easy, and that's how mistakes are made, and that's how more criminals come in.
No, quick would actually incentivize, right, us to go, or for more people to go through the legal process, therefore making it easier for us to register more people, therefore incentivizing people to like be witnesses, right? Because undocumented immigrants are not incentivized to be witnesses in any type of crime or situation like that, because it is the case that they would have threat of deportation. So obviously, you would want people who specifically are in the country not to have that threat of deportation, right? Given that they're good citizens, you want them to be witnesses, right? In those types of situations, that's an important thing as well.
Okay.
And the fact that it takes so long, years upon years upon years, to be able to get into the country, oftentimes up to $10,000, right? That's ridiculous. That should never be the case, right?
So
That is
would
insane,
you
and that
allow
disincentivizes people to go through the legal process, and that overall harms the ability for border patrol, right, or people who are trying to deal with the enforcement of the border, right, to actually know who's trying to come to the country for genuine reasons and are good people versus who's trying to come into the country for nefarious means, right? And if it is the case that more people are incentivized to go through the legal process, it will be easier for law enforcement at the border to be able to identify anyone coming for nefarious reasons that is trying to commit violent crime or do bad things.
do you think that the people that are coming in here illegally, do you think that's a good thing?
I don't think it's wrong for them to come into the country undocumented if they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime.
So do you think it would be okay for someone to come into your house without your permission and just kind of do whatever? They aren't breaking anything, they aren't stealing anything, but they're just kind of living in your house without your permission. Do you think that would be an okay thing to do?
No.
Okay, well, the country is our house,
I
and
have a
they're
question.
coming in here without permission.
Do tourists have to come here with permission?
Well, it depends, like from different countries.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they have to get something that says they can come here. I'm not 100% sure. I've never exited out of this country, or I haven't lived in another country, so I'm not sure about that.
So no, right?
Yeah.
In a certain sense. Some people do,
Well,
but
tourists
and
kind of
I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify.
grow the economy, though.
Let me clarify in a different way, right? Maybe that's not the best way. There is a open border between Nevada and California. If you believe that there should be an open border between Nevada and California, does that entail that you have to believe that someone from Nevada should be able to come into your house?
But is California and Nevada not part of the United States of America?
I understand, but like the point that I'm making is that just because you believe in an open border between two land areas doesn't mean it is the case that you are saying that someone should be able to stay in your house, right? I also am saying explicitly, right, that I don't think anyone should just be able to come in if they've committed a violent crime or bad crime. I do think that that's wrong, right, and we shouldn't let them in the country in that circumstance, right? Like, does that make sense?
With the tourists, they do have a passport. They are checked as they go through airport security, all that whatnot. Um,
So
so
is
that's
just
a
have
lot different than just
so to
crossing
clarify,
the border
to
and just
clarify,
walking in.
if someone has a passport, should they be able to legally immigrate to the country quickly, or should they be able to come undocumented?
Well, when you come as a tourist, you're not there to live there. You're there
Well,
to come for a
you
little
could
while.
stay past the time in which you were set to go back, or you could get a one-way flight.
Yeah, but eventually you are going to have to go back. Like that.
Okay,
That's just a
well,
given.
say if
That's
someone,
not. You don't live there.
well then
You're a
here's my
tourist.
question: that someone stays in the country, they were authorized to come into the country, right? It is the case that they want to stay in the country. Should they be allowed to get a pathway to citizenship that's quick?
Yeah, but they should go back to their country and then proceed to go through the pathway that way. You shouldn't get to
Why
just
why shouldn't they be able to stay in
that's
the
kind of
country?
just like breaking the system.
Well,
That's
again,
not how
if
it
you
works.
need to make the system go significantly faster, and you only have an issue seemingly when it is the case that we're referencing people coming through the undocumented process, because it is the case that the legal process right now in this country takes so long, right? And you can understand that if it is the case that it takes so long, that it would make sense that someone would violate the law. Obviously, it is the case that like it would make sense to violate a law if that law is unjustified.
Well, it so when a mother of four is starving and needs to get money to feed her kids and then goes and steals bread, that's still a crime. Yeah, it's not it's a reasonable reason to go and steal food, but that still doesn't mean that she should have done it,
Can I give you
if
an
that makes
example? Who
sense.
is the victim when someone comes to this country undocumented?
Themselves, they did that to themselves.
What?
They like
That's what?
they
That doesn't even make any sense.
when they come into this when they come into the country illegally and then
So
they
who
get
is the victim?
deported, that is their own fault.
No. Without deportation, if someone just comes to the country undocumented, who is the victim?
The United States of America, because now we have someone who we don't know lives here.
So how can
It's
a
not
country be a victim?
the it's just it's a lack of
It would be
safety.
a people. Like, so are you saying every person in the country? Is that your view?
Yeah, that does threaten everyone in the country, because
So
now
you say
if
you're
they
saying
do
I am a
decide to
wait.
do
So
something bad,
to clarify, you
if they
think
do decide to do something
wait,
bad at some
I
point,
have a question. I have a
everyone does
question.
something bad at some
I have a
point,
question. I have a
that
question.
that is a
I
national
have a
threat.
question. I have a question. Am I a victim of undocumented immigration?
Not personally,
You
but
just
that doesn't,
contradicted
like, I'm just
yourself.
saying, but you could be. Could you not?
You just contradicted yourself. You said as a country, as a whole, that means everyone in the country. Well, then that would mean, as a byproduct, that means I explicitly am a victim of undocumented immigration, which makes no
No, I'm
sense
not
to
saying you're
say.
a victim. I'm saying that you could be in danger of being a victim. There's a
Could
difference
okay,
between being a
okay.
victim and then being
So
in
then
danger of
who? Okay, so
being.
then if someone comes to the country and is undocumented, who's the victim?
I don't like you're not getting my point though.
Well, because I'm asking you to clarify.
The victim is not there yet, but could be. It's a danger.
Okay,
That's like
so there
if
is no, so to
you
clarify,
went out and walked around at 3 in the
so to
morning. You're
clarify,
not
there
a
is no
victim,
victim.
but you're in danger.
So to clarify, there is no victim. It's a victimless crime.
It's still it's putting it's a liability.
What does that even mean? That's not even acting.
It's
So
when
it's
someone comes into the
regardless of
country
whether or not you want to say it's a
undocumented,
liability, you have to
there is a
agree.
danger that they
Regardless of
decide to do
hold
something.
up. Regardless of whether or not you want to say it's a liability, at the end of the day, it's a victimless crime.
Until they commit a crime. Then it's a crime.
Okay, so okay, well then, if it's a
But they and not only that, they already committed a crime coming here. It's when you like there's some countries
civil
that you
infraction,
go into and you could get your like hand chopped off for going into that country illegally.
yeah, and that's cruel and unusual punishment.
It is, and thank
Yeah,
God
we
we
don't
don't
believe
do
in
that,
that.
and we're not like that, and that's why we're
We don't
better.
believe in that. So why is that your standard that you're comparing to?
Why, like again, it's like when someone breaks into your house and doesn't do anything, is that's a victimless crime.
No, it is that crime has a victim. It's whoever owns that house.
Yeah, and we own this country as a people.
Okay, so then
That
the logical conclusion of that point is that then I am a victim of undocumented immigration.
yes, well, low key, yeah, exactly, because that puts you
Oh,
in
that's a
danger.
crazy
That puts
take.
you in danger.
That's a crazy take.
How is it not?
How am I a victim?
I'm not saying
By the
that
way,
you're of
Republicans
it's
always like to say that like we have victim mindsets. How am I a victim of undocumented immigration?
do you like being in danger?
What?
Do you like being in danger?
Undocumented immigrants are not a danger.
They can be though. Can they not?
Natural born U.S. citizens are more likely to be a danger. If you cared about a danger, you wouldn't have voted for the danger in the president and in the Oval Office today. You voted for a guy held civilly liable of a woman who reproduces more social and cultural norms and which accept people who literally have been held civilly liable of people. You are socially
I'm
normalizing.
asking you personally.
That's what you're trying to
Do
do.
you like to be in danger?
No. Donald Trump puts our
Exactly.
country in danger. Therefore, you shouldn't support Donald Trump.
How does he put so by
How does he put our country
limiting
in danger? By
immigrant
like
access and
harming
making
what?
it to where it is harder for illegal immigrants to get into this country? How does that make it more dangerous when we're limiting illegal, let's put that word out there, illegal immigrants from coming in here?
Because the current process that we're saying right here creates a system where there's an underclass of people specifically who, based on economic reasons, are going to still try to get into the country because the process takes too long. So it creates a system where it literally funds the cartel, because it is the case that people will go through the context of the cartel or through any types of organizations that will provide them the ability to possibly get into the country. Right. So actually, it harms things that Donald Trump thinks are issues, right? Like the power of the cartel, right? Specifically, when he has the certain process that exists, when it takes so long to get into the country legally, that incentivizes people who are good people to literally go through a process that is undocumented. And since that process is so hard and difficult to be able to get through, people oftentimes will rely on harmful entities because they have no one else to rely on.